A movie so mind-bending that every 2 minutes your brain gets hit with a new twist. A film where reality flips 43 times in just 106 minutes, and by the end, you feel like you've learned how to commit the perfect crime. This isn't fiction. This movie actually exists, and once you understand it completely, you'll never look at a locked room murder the same way again. It's the legendary masterpiece, The Invisible Guest. The story begins with a crime scene so impossible that even the police are shaken. They break open a hotel room door and freeze. A woman lies dead on top of a mountain of cash worth millions. Next to her sits a wounded man, trembling, whispering someone else was in the room, but the room is locked from the inside. No broken windows, no forced vents, no hidden exits, no footprints, nothing. If there was another person, they vanished into thin air. And that leaves only one possible killer, the man who survived, Adrian Doria. He pays millions to get out on bail, confident he can prove his innocence, until his lawyer arrives and tells him something that destroys his confidence completely. The police have found a new witness. From here, the truth begins to twist, turn, and collapse into a maze of lies, secrets, traps, and a killer who seems to be completely invisible. When the lawyer placed a newspaper on the table, Doria finally broke. On the front page was a report about a missing young man. He quietly confessed that he had killed someone, but not Laura. The person he killed was the young man in the newspaper. It all happened 3 months earlier. Doria and Laura were on a trip together. While driving, Doria swerved to avoid a deer and crashed straight into an oncoming car. Inside that vehicle was a young man, severely injured and barely conscious. Terrified, Doria immediately tried to call the police, but Laura stopped him. If they reported the accident, their affair would be exposed. Their lives would collapse. Since no one had seen the accident, Laura suggested they flee before anyone arrived. After a moment of panic, they decided to leave. But when they tried to start their car, the engine wouldn't turn over, and another vehicle approached from the distance. Acting quickly, Laura ran to the young man's car, pushed him down to hide him, grabbed his notebook and pen, and hurried back to Doria. When the approaching driver stopped to ask if they needed help, Laura stayed calm, pretending everything was fine. Then the injured boy's phone started ringing. Laura rushed back, turned off the phone, pretended to answer it, and once again convinced the driver that nothing was wrong. After the man left, Laura looked at Doria and coldly insisted that they get rid of everything, both the car and the body. Doria eventually found a suitable place near a reservoir. As he pushed the damaged car toward the water, the same deer from earlier suddenly appeared again. Still, he hesitated only for a moment before pushing the car into the water. He then contacted Laura to pick him up. When she arrived, the car they left behind had already been repaired by an older man who found it on the road. But Laura looked shaken, something that hadn't happened even during the accident or the cover-up. She explained that after Doria left, an elderly man had stopped by, noticed their broken car, and kindly towed it back to his home for repairs. His wife was equally warm, offering Laura tea and inviting her to stay for dinner. When Laura stepped inside their home, she saw something that stunned her, a framed photograph of the young man they had just killed. He was the elderly couple's son. While the kind, unsuspecting parents were repairing the murderer's car and serving Laura tea, their dead son's phone was still in her pocket. As she tried to leave, the phone rang again. The couple heard it. They looked at each other, then followed the sound. "Did you hear that?" they asked Laura, forced herself to stay calm and shook her head. Laura shook her head, pretending she hadn't heard anything, but the elderly woman dialed her son's number again. The same ringtone echoed through the house. After searching around the living room, she lifted a sofa cushion and found the phone. The discovery only deepened the couple's suspicion. Meanwhile, Laura was growing more and more nervous. She hurried outside, sat in the driver's seat, quickly adjusted the seat position, and stepped on the gas, speeding away from the house. Watching the car disappear, the old man sensed something was wrong. After hearing Laura's story, Doria found the whole situation strange, but at this point, all they could do was continue covering everything up. Laura told him to destroy the car completely, making sure nothing was left behind. They also agreed never to contact each other again. After that, Doria went to the police and filed a report claiming his car had been stolen. He pretended he had just returned home from a business trip in Paris. For a moment, he thought the whole incident was perfectly concealed, but then he saw a TV news report about the missing young man. The emotional plea from the boy's father left a deep impact on him. Soon after, the police found Doria. The people who reported him were the elderly couple. That night, the old man had noticed Laura's strange behavior. Their son's phone was supposed to be with him when he left the house, yet it had rung inside their living room, and the father remembered something else. Laura claimed she was the one driving the car, yet when she left, she readjusted the driver's seat completely differently from how she had said it earlier. Suspicion grew. The old man secretly wrote down the car's license plate. With all these clues, police began to suspect that Laura wasn't acting alone, and that Doria might have been the actual driver involved in the accident. But Doria denied ever knowing this woman. He said his car had already been reported stolen. His lawyer could vouch for him, and he had a plane ticket proving he was in Paris that day. Of course, all of this was fabricated. With everything prepared beforehand, Doria's people forged documents, evidence, and alibis. He successfully cleared his name. Then, one day, the young man's father showed up at his office. The old man had already guessed the truth, that his son had been killed by Doria. But with no evidence, all he could do was beg. Doria was drowning in guilt, yet he could only pretend he didn't understand. The heartbroken father lit a cigarette, stared blankly for a moment, and then tossed his lighter into a nearby fish tank. Security eventually escorted him out. Rumor had it that his wife had fallen gravely ill. Doria told all of this to the defense lawyer, and the lawyer immediately realized. The lawyer began connecting the pieces. Laura had died in a locked room, and the only person inside with her was Doria. If there truly was an invisible killer, the lawyer reasoned, it could only have been the young man's father. She even outlined how the father could have blackmailed, murdered, and framed Doria before escaping. Every question Doria raised was countered calmly and logically by the lawyer. Then the lawyer suddenly exposed the real intention behind Doria's confession. "You and your team hired me," she said, "not to defend you, but to test whether your fabricated story is convincing. If I believe it, the jury will too." Doria didn't deny it. Seeing that, the lawyer revealed the defense strategy Doria clearly wanted her to follow. He needed to prove he did not kill Laura. To do that, they had to push all blame onto Thomas Garrido, the young man's father. Doria neither confirmed nor rejected it. He simply changed the subject, clearly unsatisfied. "The best hunters," the lawyer said quietly, "often appear as prey." She placed 3 photos on the table. "Among these 3 people, can you see who the real hunter is?" Doria kept questioning her. The lawyer pulled out a photograph from the hotel crime scene. Doria looked closely and suddenly realized the truth. The boy's mother was the hotel maid. She had been right there at the scene. With that detail, the lawyer and Doria reconstructed what must have happened. After the father killed Laura and framed Doria, he escaped through the window. When the police burst in, the mother quickly closed the window behind him, so when the officers checked, the room appeared sealed, creating the illusion of a perfect locked room murder. The lawyer pointed out another detail. When the father visited Doria earlier to ask about his son, he lit a cigarette, then tossed the lighter into the fish tank. He wasn't being dramatic. He was testing whether his son's body had been dumped into the reservoir. Doria's reaction at that moment had told him everything. Later, when the father blackmailed Doria, he even produced a photo resembling the reservoir disposal site. At this point, Doria was fully convinced the lawyer could help him escape blame for Laura's death. Next came the harder part, how to free him from responsibility for the young man's death in the car accident. But before the lawyer could continue, she received new information. The police had located a key witness. The driver who passed by the crash scene that night time was running out. So the lawyer stopped trying to gently persuade Doria and instead laid out an entire ready-made story. 3 months ago, at the crash site, Laura had been alone. She hit the boy, dumped the body, framed the situation, and Doria knew nothing. Later, after Doria was blackmailed, he confronted Laura at the hotel. Only then did he learn the truth, which led to the tragedy that followed. But the lawyer added a warning. "This version isn't strong enough by itself. We need evidence. Something of Laura's must be placed near the reservoir, otherwise the story won't hold." Doria hesitated. "But the driver who passed by, he can prove I was there," he said. The lawyer looked at him and revealed the truth. "He can't prove anything. I lied. I only said that to push you. I needed you to tell me what really happened." He admitted that after waking up that day, he saw the boy's father and recognized the boy's mother leaving the hotel. He had known the truth all along. He just wanted to test the lawyer's ability. And now, the lawyer had passed. Xiao Shuai took the lawyer's pen and drew the exact place where the body had been dumped. But just as the lawyer prepared to use this to frame the parents, Xiao Shuai dropped a bombshell. The boy isn't dead. He confessed he had gone too far and now needed the lawyer to help him survive the mess he'd created. The lawyer, furious, pressed him harder, and Xiao Shuai revealed even more. The lawyer suddenly switched the narrative and exposed the real truth. It wasn't the girlfriend who begged Xiao Shuai to hide the hit and run. Xiao Shuai was the one who refused to call the police. He was the one who suggested hiding the body. He was the one who stole the victim's wallet to fake a runaway. The girlfriend, whom Xiao Shuai painted as a manipulative femme fatale, had actually been the only one with a conscience she called the victim's parents. She planned to turn Xiao Shuai in. The message, "I'm going to tell the truth," was a scheduled text from her own phone. She wanted them both to confess, but Xiao Shuai killed her before she could. Xiao Shuai had been feeding the lawyer half-truths all night, hoping the lawyer would solve the version of the story he wanted, and he almost succeeded, until the lawyer delivered the final blow. In the crime scene photo, the mirror didn't show the mother, proving the parents had staged nothing. It was Xiao Shuai all along. The lawyer calmly stepped out to get coffee. Xiao Shuai relaxed when he received a call. Their bribed witness, the driver, had agreed to disappear, but then ink bled across Xiao Shuai's shirt. He pulled the lawyer's pen from his pocket and froze. The pen wasn't a pen at all. It was a listening device. He rushed to the window. The father standing outside was no father. The lawyer stood beside him, pulling off colored contacts, peeling off the rubber mask, removing the silver wig. It was the boy's mother the whole time. The doorbell rang. Another silver-haired woman stood outside, their accomplice. Across the street, the real father dialed the police. Xiao Shuai's lawyer had arrived far, far too late.